Welcome to the Mid-Penn Bank Podcast, hosted by President and CEO Rory Retrieve. In this episode, Rory is joined by RJ Harris, morning host at WHP 580 at iHeartMedia. Here's the conversation.
So, yeah, my mother and father-in-law, now I'm not sure that they listen every day because, people are busy, but they told me that they love, whenever they have the opportunity to listen, they listen to you. And that's why you're the number one morning talk show, right?
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Not only because of them, but because of people like them that if you have the opportunity to listen in the morning, they're listening to RJ Harris.
No, listen, when I see my listeners and or even on the phone, and I talk to quite a few, and they say, we listen to you every day. That's a blessing for me. I tell them they help keep me employed, and they do.
Absolutely.
At doing a job that, I decided at age 12 I wanted to do. So life is really good. I thank them.
Do you get recognized a lot when you're out and about?
A fair amount.
Yeah.
Some of it is just by voice. They say, well, I know that voice. You're RJ Harris. And but I also did commentaries on CBS 21 and did their version of Face the State.
Right.
So I've spent some time on TV, but mainly it's just being around and emceeing everything under the sun. If someone had a gala, I was there.
You do have that very distinguishable voice.
Well,
It's a voice for radio or television. It's a great voice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So you said that a lot of people recognize you because of the voice. I'll tell a quick story. I ran the 2019, I think it was, Philadelphia half marathon.
Yeah.
Now, it's in November. So every November for the last 10 years, we do a fundraiser for prostate cancer, where for the first time in my life, starting 10 years ago, I had to grow a beard. So every November over the last 10 years, I've had a beard. So this was no exception. The race is in, right before Thanksgiving, I think. Saturday before Thanksgiving. So it's later in November, so I got a, pretty sizable beard on. And of course I'm running, so I have a pad and I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts. And I'm with my daughter, Olivia. And we're standing in the line getting ready to run. And some guy comes up to me and he goes, Rory Retrieve, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where do we know each other from? He said, we used to work together back in the early 90s. And I said, hey, listen, man, how the heck did you know that was me? Like, I haven't seen you
with the beard and all.
I haven't seen you in 30 years. I have a beard. I have a beard. Like, when he saw me 30 years ago, he saw me in a suit and tie. And he said, I heard your voice and I knew it was you.
Wow. Like, wow.
So I've got a voice that can only be described as, I think someone said, it sounds like coal being thrown down a gravel pit.
No, you have a good voice. And the other thing is, it's just like a fingerprint. It really is. People have sounds in common. The other day I was on the phone with my oldest son, Mike. Not only does he look like me, he now sounds like me, but yet not.
So when you hear him not talking to you, but you hear him on a recording or something, does he sound just like you?
Not just like me, no. So, but that's why I say it's your fingerprint, because it is unique.
Right.
Yeah, it really is.
So on the, people recognizing you in public and you wanting to pay tribute to them because they're the ones that pay your paycheck, so to speak. I'm good friends with Ron Jaworski.
Yeah, yes.
And years ago, when Philadelphia, they developed that waterfront area and they had a lot of bars and restaurants. And this is, probably 5 to 10 years after he stopped playing. And he was still pretty popular because he was on Monday Night Football at the time. And we're sitting at this. It was one of the first times I was out in public with him. And it was kind of cool.
I bet.
Because everyone's coming up to him,
Ron
Jaworski, and they're getting autographs. Well, then, an hour later, I'm like, now I'm done with it. Because they kept coming up and interrupting our conversations. And this one young lady comes up and she's like, I hate the Eagles. I'm a Giants fan, blah, 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 blah. Would you sign an autograph? Ron, he signs the autograph and she leaves. And I said, man, Charles, how are you that nice to everyone? He said, all these people pay my, if they stop watching me, then I don't make any money.
No, that's right.
And I was like, well, that's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah.
That everyone that you interact with is your customer.
Right. And that's the way I look at it. I don't really put a dollar sign with
No,
it.
no, no, no. I mean that. But
they're
they're your
right.
customers.
Yeah,
Right.
they are my customers. And not only that, but I'm serious about what I said. I woke up I wanted to be a geologist until I was 12.
Right.
And then I decided, I woke up one day, heard the disc jockey having fun, that I wanted to be a disc jockey.
Who was it?
J.W. Wagner.
Okay.
And maybe that's why I use my initials, although I have been Rick Harris. In New York City, I was Rick Harris. I was Rick Harris.
Did you grow up in New York?
No, I grew up in Reading, inner city Reading, in a row home.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So,
is that home still around?
Absolutely. It's still there. I drive by every now and then and take a picture of it. Looks a little better than we lived there. The windows actually work. So
I drive by my old house in Harrisburg when it's broad daylight and
well, right. No, listen, I lived in a questionable neighborhood.
Yeah.
My brothers, I have twin brothers who are almost 7 years older. And I did the math one day, and 50% of the boys that age spent time at Berks County Prison.
Really?
Yeah. Now, by the time they got to our generation, that wasn't so. We did have a kid that knifed another in junior high school. But when he was in junior high school, he should have been in 11th grade. That's back in the day when they really did hold you back.
Right.
So it was, I had a great childhood, though.
What high school did you go to?
Reading
Reading
Senior High School.
And when do you leave Reading?
I leave Reading the day I got married, which was my 18th birthday, 1972.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Married my wife Bonnie then, and it's all these years later. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 50 some years?
50, going on 53.
Wow.
Yeah, 53 in November.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you all have children?
Yes.
Or you have your son?
Yeah, I have 2 boys and a girl. Well, they're fully grown now. And we have a bunch of grandchildren.
How many?
We have 7 and then 2 step-grandchildren. And they were all girls until Andrew came along 5 years ago. So I have 1 grandson and a step-grandson. So it's the greatest thing in the world.
So you listen to J.W. Wagner when you're 12.
Right.
And that inspires you to pursue the path.
I mailed him a letter and I said, how do you become a disc jockey?
Right.
And he wrote back and said, well, you don't need a college education. Okay. And disc jockeys make, I think at the time it was maybe $135 a week, the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought $135 a week, I'm going to be rich. You know, the most I ever saw my stepdad take home was $90-some, and that was after a lot of overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was going to be rich had I become a disc jockey.
Right.
Yeah.
So, was he a record spinner or was he a talk show guy?
Right. No, they didn't do any what I call shtick. You know, I went on to do mornings, and even before talk, I was known for doing character voices and, you know, making phone calls all over the world and things like that. That's much of what I did when I was on the air in New York City and the other places that I
So when are you on the air in New York City? What time frame?
1985, 86.
So Stern's there at the time.
Oh,
right?
yeah. In fact, I worked for NBC. I did mornings on WYNY, their FM. I was on the AM, and Stern was on the AM as well in the afternoon. And I have to tell you, Howard was a nice man. It was Imus who was the jerk. I say that affectionately, but he was. Yeah. And but Stern was a really nice guy.
So Stern, you know, in his movie, had that whole thing where he had to say WNBC.
Yeah, the reason for that is it's stupid radio stuff. I don't know that they ever explained it, but there was WABC and WNBC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, WABC was perennial number 1. Top 40 radio station. WNBC could never do anything to it. And they did research and found out that people, you know, thought WNBC was WABC because it sounded, you know, they say it quickly, WNBC.
So that's why the guy wanted them to pronunciate the
right,
N.
Right.
And
it was another guy before, what did he call him? Pig vomit? Another guy actually invented that, a man named John Lund, who was Pig Vomit's predecessor.
Right.
Yeah.
So Was that person Pig Vomit in the movie? Was he an actual person? Was he an
Yeah.
amalgamation?
Oh no, he's still in radio today, and
Really?
a very successful guy. In the movie, he was made out to be a dunce, and he was just doing radio stuff.
Mhm.
He was a pretty smart guy. In fact,
Right.
I'm pretty sure he works for my company.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you're in New York then? How long?
About a year and a half only.
Yeah.
I came back to go into business with John and Al Dame as part owner of WKBO and then Williamsport property.
Wow. Yeah. WKBO. I remember that.
Yeah.
So you were with John Dane.
Yes, John and I love John. John was a friend for a long time. I worked for him in York.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say worked for him, I did, but we were friends as well and just had such a fun time and a lot of respect for each other when it comes to radio.
So you went from New York to one of his stations.
Yes. Yeah, came back, essentially.
And you said that was Williamsport?
WKBO in Harrisburg and then WKSP Williamsport. Yeah. Mhm.
John is something that I just saw John on Monday.
Yeah, okay.
And he
Good
helps
for
us.
you. I haven't.
Yeah, he helps us out with. Well, he's no longer in your business.
Right.
Now he's in the, coaching, leadership development,
And really
strategic
good at it.
planning.
I always said that John Dane was the best radio salesperson I ever met in my life. Okay, and I say that very proudly. He kept WKBO afloat. He
Yeah.
really did.
Who were the personalities on WKBO?
Well, in its heyday, Dan Steele and
Dan Steele.
and Carol Chrissy, Steele and Chrissy in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
John St. John in the afternoon.
So they were like the rival of the Bruce Bond. What was it?
No, Bruce wasn't on the air yet.
Yeah.
Their station they competed against was 1400 WFEC. This is
WFEC.
this is the era of AM radio stations,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for top 40. We were all in top 40.
Right.
That's where I started, WRAW in Reading. And I remember when I was in Philadelphia, 20 years old, then 21, doing the all-night show on a station down there. And a manager from Harrisburg called me and said he wanted me to come and be the program director of WSFM. And I said, no way. If you have an opening on the AM, you give me a call. Okay. So I came back and did WCMB instead, but then took over WSFM. And that actually it was automated, but Harrisburg's first top 40 radio station, if you remember, Rock 99.
Yeah.
So there,
But that was FM.
that was FM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So FEC was AM.
Yes.
And KBO was that AM?
Yeah. 1230.
Wow.
Now, Wink went on the air, I think 1980-ish.
I would think
Yeah.
the early 80s.
Yeah. It was WTPA prior to that and still had the #1 ratings in the market by that time on FM. And a couple of guys from Williamsport bought it and changed the name of it and the format to Wink. And people thought they were crazy because they bought the #1 station in town,
Mhm.
#1 brand.
And what was
and
TPA
changed
doing?
It was hard rock.
Hard rock.
Yeah.
So they turned it into Wink, which is more of a top 40 station, but
Right.
But the real thing was Bond, right?
Well, not initially, but yes. What happened was the radio station immediately went from something like a 12 or a 14 share, which was mammoth, playing hard rock and roll, to a 24 share,
Wow.
doing top 40. I mean, it was amazing, and then held on for there. And yes, Bruce developed. Bruce started there playing records, but I mean, he was a disc jockey who, like me, put content between
Mhm.
records on FM. But eventually, it became so big that he turned it into talk and used to mock him when they'd say, well, you need to play some records.
Right.
And he'd play a song or two an hour, and nobody cared.
Right.
They were there listening to Bruce.
But he was kind of the Central PA's version of Stern, though, right? Because weren't the
Yeah.
guys also telling Stern he had to play music every once in a while? And
Well,
then
sure,
ultimately he just got the
yeah.
pure
Bruce
talk.
was. Bruce was the most controversial thing that you could find in Central
Certainly,
Pennsylvania.
yeah.
Was he Stern? No.
Right.
I mean, come on. When we compare Howard and the things that he did to Bruce,
Outrageous thing.
outrageous.
Yeah, but-
so,
but, I mean,
but for here,
yeah.
it was, yeah,
But for here, it was outrageous.
No, he did well.
What he was doing was outrageous.
yeah.
So as you transitioned from spinning records to exclusively talk,
Yeah.
did you feel that you were pushing that, being outrageous, or were you always like taking a more conservative approach?
Oh, no. In fact, I was outrageous a long time before Bruce Bond,
Yeah.
and did all kinds of things on Starview with John, Heavy Breathing
Starview,
Club.
yeah.
And, yeah.
Starview, that was like 92?
Well, no, I was there in the 70s when Starview
No,
was
I'm
really...
saying was their
Oh, yeah,
their
92.7.
Yeah, 92.7.
Yeah. It was really quite the rock and roll station, and we were doing things on Morning Drive that they weren't doing other places.
Right.
That's what propelled my career and sent me on my way. I remember being at a convention of like stations that our consultant had, and they played the Heavy Breathing Club, where I'd get couples on the phone, and they would make so we did a lot of outrageous phone calls, a lot of foreign phone calls and things like that.
And you said you did voices.
Yeah.
So when you made the
Yeah.
phone calls, were you?
It depends. The most famous was a little. It happened in the late '90s. Was starting in Carlisle in 1974. I started to call Prince Charles, Buckingham Palace, every year on his birthday in November. And of course, initially, no morning shows did that. So the receptionist would talk to me. She'd say, "You're crazy. You're not, I can't put you through to him," or whatever, right? Well, later, morning shows caught on to this, and they started to replicate those of us who were out there doing this. And I'm being serious. Well, they ruined it for all of us, because
Right.
you'd call and they'd hang up on you.
Right.
So I decided one year on Cool 99.3 here in Harrisburg,
I remember that one.
I was going to call as President Reagan to try and get through. They hung up on me. So then I decided, we decided, the team, that I'd call back as a different president each time. So I called back as Jimmy Carter, okay? They hang up on me. I call back as Richard Nixon. Nixon is dead, okay? The lady believes it. And she gives me a number. She goes, "Well, His Royal Highness is at 435-5555." I think it's a joke. I play the tape back and rewind it, and now call as Reagan, because I think nobody's going to believe that Nixon is calling.
Right.
So I go back to Reagan. Well, this guy thought it was his brother Mark, and he started to, "Your Royal Highness this and that." And I said, "No, it's Ronald Reagan." And he snapped too. I mean, this guy said, "I'm sorry, the prince is in the garden. Let us call you back," and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "No, I have to call you back." And we did about an hour later and got through, except when we got through, it was now me, and Charles was not very happy.
So was this, what time period was this?
Wow, it was the late 90s. And in fact, it kind of made news a few years ago, maybe more than that now. It might be 10 years ago, because they released some letters at the Reagan Library. One of them was to Nancy from Charles, but the other one was from Charles to Ronald Reagan over how upset he was that this American disc jockey called him on his birthday,
Really?
imitating Ronald Reagan, and got through. So that's somewhere in the Reagan Library, that letter. I never really confessed to doing this in a big way, because, I called a guy that's now the king and spoofed him. And
So do you do voices anymore?
yes, but not pre-recorded. I lapse into some voices here and there as time goes on. And
Can we hear?
Yes, a big beautiful bill. I'll tell you this: I love the big beautiful bill. This is a beautiful piece of chocolate cake.
He's got to be.
He's not my best ever, but I like
he's
doing
got to be a pretty easy guy to do, because he says,
Oh, he is, and
way he talks
right
is distinctive,
right, yeah.
and then his voice, because of the is
But
a little bit distinct.
I also have a lot of character voices that I
Right.
do, the rednecks of the world, and you name it.
Mhm.
And because of all the foreign phone calls, I do a lot of accents as well. Now, in this day and age, I'm not politically correct, but yet you have to be somewhat cautious, because now you're criticized if you do an accent, and which to me is crazy.
Right.
It's comedy, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's extremely difficult for someone to be a comedian today,
Yes, it is.
because all the things that made Richard Pryor who Richard Pryor was, and Eddie Murphy and Carlin and all those guys, like all those things would be politically incorrect today.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
how do you
You do it.
How do you
You do
find
it.
him?
Look,
Like
those.
I'm sitting there watching. I don't know if you ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes, I love the show.
Love it. I don't think they could do that today.
We say that about a lot of shows too, and I'll tell you what you do.
I say that about Modern Family. My wife and I enjoy watching
Well,
Modern
that's
Family.
right.
I mean, there's a lot of episodes. I'm like, I don't think they could do that today.
No, but you know what? You just do it.
Right.
If you're courageous, you do it, and you go from there.
But what are not the creative people that are courageous? There are plenty of them. Where are the courageous stations that are going to put that type of content on that might be pushing, the boundaries of political correctness? I just think stations would be, hesitant to do that.
Right. Maybe a little more apt to do it now. But I did see, and I forget his name. I saw a comedian today that had a funny line. He said, yeah, they announced they're putting another woman on The View, Jimmy Kimmel. And I did laugh because that's pretty funny. And you got to be able to do that kind of material.
Right.
And there's some people who will be upset by that. Get over it.
Well, I've seen a lot of people now saying, all right, so Jimmy Kimmel says some things, they're controversial. They take him off the air for a period of time, and people are yelling and screaming about it. But they're not yelling and screaming about, someone getting murdered. They're yelling and screaming about, supposedly someone's voice being silenced, and it's business, right?
Right.
Like the owners of those stations decided that they wanted to take him off the air for a period of time.
Right.
He was put on a week later, and no harm, no foul.
Well, there are those that think that was a stunt. I mean, he did have the largest ratings the guy I think has ever had when he came back. Now, that's not going to be something that lasts.
It's sustainable, right?
Right. But the fact of the matter is, there are those that believe it was a stunt. Not Nexstar and Sinclair so much as ABC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So, is your show today still, largely considered or by the ratings the number one morning show in the Harrisburg area?
Among adults over 40, without a doubt. It is talk radio. So do we have younger people listening? Yeah, I run into people all the time who say, I listen to you every day, and I started that way when my father would go to school. He had you on.
Right.
So you do pick that up, like the guy, Ron Drake, who spent many years on the radio station. I still go out in public and have people tell me that, they listened to Ron Drake when they were kids. So, it's...
and what station was Drake on?
He was on WHP. Yeah. But I marked 25 years on the 18th. So I've been on that station a quarter of its existence.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've been around about 100 years.
It is 100 years this year. Yeah.
And are they considered one of the better stations in the country?
Yes, talk-wise, we
talk-wise.
outperform a lot of our sister stations, and because iHeart owns more talk AMs and FMs in the country than anyone, we outperform them even in terms of demographics. Our demographics are lower. Many of the talk stations are really 60 plus, but we have the benefit of having a lower demographic, which is nice. So yeah.
So what a talk show does better in a more mature market?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But it also does better in a market like this. Some years back, and it is some years, it's when Bush, when W ran for re-election, they said that Harrisburg, from the Mason-Dixon line through York, up through Harrisburg, into the center of New York is the most conservative area in America. So if you take the cities out of there, going up through the actual cities, it's absolutely true, including up into New York. And if you look at Nielsen ratings for radio stations, and we own them going right up 81. We own Albany, we own Syracuse, we own Rochester, we own Harrisburg. You can see the ratings going right up 81,
right,
and how well those stations perform because it is a conservative area.
But everything iHeart does is not talk show, but they're the biggest talk show in the
Right. We
the
own Premier,
right.
So that is Glenn Beck and Clay and Buck and Hannity and used to be Rush. All the products that we have on the air, we absolutely own as well.
Are you the only local person that's on 580?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything else they do throughout the rest of the day is all like syndicated stuff?
We have Dave Latour, who has a show on Saturday mornings.
Do we know him?
Yeah. You know Dave Latour. So
he's been on the show a couple times.
No, he's the best. I love Dave. So his show is local. pre-recorded earlier in the week, but local. And there are some other local shows, but they're business oriented. They're not what what I do.
Is Latour's on Saturday?
Saturday morning, 9 to 10.
Right.
Yeah. When the plant doctor retired, we moved him to the coveted spot.
So is he doing well for you guys?
He's doing extremely well. It's just a great show all the way around.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I've been on it 2 or 3 times.
I've heard you on.
I think I'm
coming
up.
Yeah, I do recall that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always got to tell him, keep me out of trouble. Like, don't don't ask me a question that I'm the CEO of a publicly traded financial institution. I can't say anything too controversial. And that's the same thing with this show. We try to keep it. And he's been on 2 times. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. No, he's one of my favorite people.
Do you remember interviewing me?
I do.
I think it was during COVID. It was during PPP, I think.
Absolutely. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was over the phone. It wasn't a face-to-face.
Arranged by Michelle Whitehead, who's
that's right.
Yeah. Good friend of ours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. I remember that.
And I thought it was a great interview. And that's the first time I think my mother-in-law was like, yeah, she's on RJ.
You became a star.
Yeah. I wasn't important to her until that point.
Okay, I got that.
I was her son-in-law for probably 15 years.
You're not the first, in all honesty, with that. It kind of works that way where, mom or dad listen or relatives, and it's a neat thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
So do you have a group of people that have been listening to you on WHP forever?
Yes.
And you interact with them? It's like I guess I'm asking, is it a fan club? Is there an RJ Harris fan club?
Well, no, not officially. There's nothing like that. But there are people who email me more than others, or when we were out more, and COVID changed everything. We're just not out and about as much. And that's because of change, not because of me. But I see them in person then. So when I go out somewhere still, I'm going to be at one of our clients, Hilscher's General Store, in November. And that's in Port Trevorton. So you have to drive to get there.
Oh, yeah.
We will have tens of people come in. And some of them, it's our once-a-year get-together. So, yeah, I do have that group of people. And then you have the group of people who are, there every day and are the same. You just don't see them.
How far does 580's signal go?
It really goes down to the Delmarva Peninsula and up to the State College area. Now, perfect? No. Perfect? No.
Yeah.
But what happens is the lower you are on the AM dial, your daytime coverage is better. So we're right down at the end of the AM dial with 5,000 watts, and we actually get out during the day and cover more ground than the 50,000 watters from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So we have a lot of coverage. It's a great station.
Do you do a lot of community service?
Absolutely.
In this area?
Absolutely.
Do you also try to, on the outskirts of where that signal gets to?
Not the outskirts, but yet, yes. I mean, when you look at the Nielsen rating area, it's 4 counties for us. And they are Dauphin, Cumberland, Perry, and Lebanon. Not Lancaster and York. They're a part of a different market.
Wow.
However, when you look at Lancaster and Northern York, I mean, Dillsburg has more in common with Harrisburg than it does York.
Sure.
Therefore, that's where we have a lot of listeners. Strinestown North, they're all WHP people.
Yeah.
And then Southern York County is a different ball game. But Lancaster is a very, very conservative county, and we are huge there. So, yes, we pay attention to those places because we want to pay attention to our listeners. And we like that because we show up in the ratings there. But really, our revenue as a radio station is derived 99% from the Harrisburg market.
Do you get to pick what your community service is, or does the station ask you to do certain things?
Well, generally, people are calling. Very rarely is it the station. People are emailing or calling direct. And as I said, a lot of it changed with COVID. I still do things, but it used to be that I was out 2 to 3 times a week, and that just doesn't happen anymore. As some of the major charities learned that during COVID, they had to raise money different ways. and that I don't want to say it was easier, but yet it was easier to do it the new way than it was to plan a gala.
Less interpersonal stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a gala for 500 people where it's very work intensive, as you know, to pull something like that off. So that's what changed mainly. You know, we don't staff Capona like we used to, where we were there every minute Capona was open. Has it changed the ratings? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you did do community things, what were the things that were closest to your heart?
Well, for me, it was always Special Olympics. I had a very special relationship with the folks at the Navy base and Area M Special Olympics. All the people that I dealt with retired, but I did the adult games, and I emceed the adult games. And it was the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life, because they're still friends. I'll go to Lowe's or someplace like that and see one of the athletes who's working there and stop and talk. I'll run into an athlete or their mother, and it really was one of the most rewarding things ever.
Was there any particular reason why that became so important to you, or did it just happen organically?
It kind of happened organically. It fell in my lap in that we had a gent that worked with me who was the MC of the Special Olympics, and he had a special needs child. So he had a direct connection, but he couldn't do it one year, and I went and did it for him. He asked me if I would, and I returned every year.
What
So,
else? That's Special Olympics is, by the way, that's spectacular. If that's all you ever did.
Yeah.
That would be
veterans. You know, my birthday is November the 11th, and on my 40th birthday, the guys from Applebee's at the time decided that we needed to have a morning show live. And they don't do breakfast, but as you know, they used to own the Big Boys way back, and they still had some people around that knew how to cook breakfast, and we had free breakfast for everybody, but predominantly vets. So it was my birthday breakfast, but yet I never wanted it to be that. I wanted the emphasis to be on veterans. So we still do that to this day and age.
Really?
Yeah. So I started it on my 40th. So this is, I'm going to be 71.
So where are you going this year?
We've been at the Penn Harris for quite a few years now, probably 10 years. We've been at the Penn Harris, and it's still a free breakfast for veterans and anybody else. Everybody's welcome. But that day is really a day that we pay attention to veterans. But I've been honored also to help with everything from honor bus to you name it, guitars for vets. Okay. So a lot of the bigger names that you would know, but by the same token, local organizations like Guitars for Vets, that's very niche, but yet they're providing therapy, lessons. You get a guitar if you complete the lessons, and just neat little things that are done for vets that nobody has any idea about.
If there's ever any way we can help you with any of that,
we'll take you up
let
on
me
that.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had your path of health that started 10 or 11 years ago.
I'm sorry.
Path of health, where you lost a considerable amount of weight.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you didn't get any surgeries. You just changed your lifestyle, right?
Well, I fought this all my life. I have a picture of me in my scout uniform, and I was overweight then. I was a fat boy at school, and we were called fat boys. Now I don't know, but that, and I was not, there weren't a lot of us. That's what's interesting that has changed over the years is there weren't a lot of us that were obese in high school, and now it's common.
Oh yeah.
So that's a sad thing. But yeah, I got to the point, what would happen with me is I'd lose 50, 60 pounds and then put that back on in another 10.
Right.
And I got to 400, and I was wearing size 58 pants and barely squeezing in them, and I knew I had 60 next. Now imagine in your shape, a waistline of 60, okay? So I decided that I was going to Italy on my first listener trip, and when I got back from Italy, I was going to change my life, and I went on to lose a little over 200 pounds.
Wow.
And I put about 30 of that back on, and I wrestle with that. I get it down, and I fluctuate, but I'm in much better shape than I've ever been. And so, yeah, that was a big thing.
What do you
no
surgery
surgery
do these days?
Well, I'll tell you in a moment, but I did want to go back to the surgery thing because I think it's important. I coined a phrase because I wrote a book about my
Mhm.
weight loss called "The Switch is Not in Your Stomach; It's in Your Head," and that's what it is. This is all mental. And I was considering the gastric bypass when Dr. Peter Breyer, was doing a show with Brett Delone and Kelly
Mhm.
McCormick on Saturday mornings called Medical Matters. And I was in our lobby and I said, Peter, I noticed that a lot of the people who had gastric bypass are gaining their weight back. And he bristled and said, that's because they don't get through their thick skulls that they have to change forever. And at that moment, I thought, if I have to change forever, why not just do it?
Right.
Why go get, lasting
Yeah.
surgery? So that was my thought, and the rest is history. I eat straight ahead nutrition now. I do run across the border here and there, and that's
Mhm.
what I consider it to be. The thing is, I need to come back. If I'm like an alcoholic when it comes to food, so I can't run across the border and stay there.
So what was the what were the foods that you felt, or was it just all food?
All food, but yet peanut butter Easter eggs and peanut butter
Who doesn't
pumpkins.
like a peanut butter Easter egg?
No, but it's crack. So what Reese's did to me is they went from peanut butter Easter eggs once a year, and peanut butter cups are always in play,
Yeah.
but the eggs were the best.
Right.
To then add shamrocks and pumpkins and Christmas trees, and they haunt me almost year round now. So those kinds of things. Tasty cakes. Oh my gosh, I could get a pack of 4 peanut butter Easter eggs and 2 different types of tasty cakes and a tasty pie and have them eaten before I got home.
Mhm.
And I was only a mile and a half from home.
So do you feel comfortable talking about that today, and it doesn't affect you?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It is like it's my alcohol.
Yeah.
I always say I'm glad I didn't get hooked
Did
on
you-
booze or drugs, because imagine how bad that would be compared
you-
to Easter eggs.
Did you get anyone's help with that, or did you just do it all on your own?
I did it all on my own.
Yeah.
Oh, well. No, that's not true. That's not true. I went to Weight Watchers for the first 100 pounds, but it wasn't for the program. It was because they had a check-in on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. right before church.
Right.
And weekends were always my hardest. That's when I fell apart, when I was doing things on my own. So I thought, if I have somebody I have to be accountable to that deep into the weekend, I would make it.
Mhm.
And that worked for me. And then years later, Nadia from Trimline became a sponsor, and I worked her program, which again, like a Weight Watchers, is straight ahead nutrition. It's a very good program. The thing about it is, I've known how to eat for years. It's not a matter of I didn't know how to eat.
Right.
I knew how to eat. It's just that the bottle of whiskey, meaning junk food, was right before me,
Mhm.
and I defaulted to it.
Right.
So,
But you feel good about it now?
oh, I feel great about
Yeah.
it.
And you look great.
Well,
by the
thank
way.
you. No, I still fight it, and I will every day.
Every day.
My only instructions to the kids will be: look, if I'm 95 and in a nursing home and I want a peanut butter egg,
Give me one.
bring me one. Okay, bring me. At that stage,
Yeah.
I want my
Yeah.
peanut butter egg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, how many grandkids?
7 and 2 step.
Are they all in the area, or?
They all were in the area. My oldest son, Mike, moved to Virginia, the Richmond area, some years ago, and is down there. So the older ones, and they are the older grandchildren, I don't get to see as much anymore, although one of them goes to university in Connecticut, and she'll call every now and then and say, I'm coming down for the weekend, and come to the house and,
What a good kid.
and spend time. Yeah.
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 Comes down to see her grandfather and grandmother. and-
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And she's quite the character.
So, what else are you doing to occupy your time other than working now?
Well, I enjoy rock collecting. As you know, I wanted to be a geologist until 12. I have
You got to be the only person I ever knew that aspired to be a geologist,
Yeah, and it's
other than geologist.
no, it's because I liked collecting rocks, and I have several thousand specimens,
Wow.
and outside the house too. So if you come to the house, you'll see. I have probably more specimens than some museums do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm a ham radio operator. It was the first way that I could get on the air as a kid and say something on a microphone.
Mhm.
So I got my ham radio license many years back, and my call letters are W3HP, which is a vanity call that I paid for, but
W3HP.
I was lucky enough to be able to get that call. And to make a long story short, I communicate all over the world. Bulgaria, Spain yesterday.
Do you do that every day?
Not every day. No.
Yeah.
No. I've been doing more of it a little bit lately because of the knee. I really haven't been able to get out and garden and things like that. So that's another thing that I do enjoy.
Describe that to me. So you're going to broadcast today.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you have a particular subject matter that you want to talk about, or do you just go on and start the riff?
Sometimes you just communicate with each other and do a contact. In other words, I talked to Bulgaria. He gave me a signal report. He's going to go on to the next one. He's going to talk to as many guys as he can, just give you a signal report. So that's cut and dry. Other times you talk, and it's about whatever.
But you're talking to someone,
right? You're talking to someone or more than someone.
Right.
You could have more than one as well. But they talk politics, they talk weather, they talk you name it. And when you're speaking to someone in a foreign country, here again, it just depends on what you get into. I've been to many, many, many places in Europe. So I have Italy and a lot of other places in common with the people I talk to. I'm going to Spain and Portugal.
Do you ever meet any of the people that you talk to?
Never.
No.
Well, local people.
Yeah.
But no, overseas, no.
So when you get on, do you, again, I've never done anything with ham radio. Do you go on and say, this is RJ Harris, who's out there? What
you do is you go on with your call letters. And
right.
if you're calling looking for someone, you call what is known as CQ. You go CQ, 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 this is W3HP, and you keep over and over again, and then you let off and see who calls you, if anyone.
Right.
And if no one calls you, you go back at it again.
Right.
So
how much time do you put into that in a week, on a normal week?
3 hours, 4 hours, not a lot of time.
And for you're on Monday through Friday.
Well, now that's
in the
ham radio, but the morning show,
I'm saying
morning 6 to 9 now, Monday through Friday. It used to be 5 till 9, and they came to me in February and said, "Gosh, we love you. The big president came to town. We love you, and we want you to stay here as long as you'd like to stay." And I said, "I'd like to stay a lot longer, but I'd like to reduce it by an hour." I did 5 to 9 for years, so now 6 to 9. Originally, I was supposed to do 6 to 9, and I was the one that asked them if I could do 5 to 9 because there were people out there, and they said yes. So I went the other way, and since March, I've been doing 6 to 9.
Did you get
made a big change?
Any feedback from your audience?
A little,
yeah,
not a ton.
I mean, I'm sure that they were probably not thrilled about it at the beginning, particularly the people that were accustomed to tuning in at 5.
Right. But there is a statistic out there that 90-some% of Americans are never awake between the hours of midnight and 6. Now, if you sit and you think about that for a minute, it all makes sense, doesn't it?
Right.
Never awake.
Never awake. So you do a 3-hour show.
Yes.
How much time do you put into each show beyond the 3 hours?
I'm always looking for things to talk about. I'm always sending myself notes for things for the next day, but I arrive now about an hour and 10 minutes before the show, and I go through news sources from all over the world, a lot here in Pennsylvania and areas of, like I look at the Tribune every day, and people never see the Tribune. Well, I glean articles from the Tribune that I use on the air that you're not seeing in any of the local media yet.
Right.
It is a big state story. One of them was raises, I think originally raises for the Turnpike Commission. That was in the Tribune and nowhere around here originally. Now, they caught up after the fact, but I will see things that kind of put me ahead of the pace from different parts of the state.
And do you take callers?
Yes, but no. I don't advertise for taking callers, but during breaks, when commercials and such are on, I have a device that I record on. All I have to do is hit a button, and I'm recording you. And if the call is worthy, I play it back on the air. But we don't usually do the call now. We want to talk to you and then screen calls. No.
Right.
It's the morning show. My job is to get people up and make them happy. So it's a mix of comedy, fun, and politics, all mixed in one.
And how many different advertisers do you have for a 3-hour show?
I could not give you a total number. I can tell you that for my endorsements, where I say, this is RJ Harris from Mid-Penn Bank, I have 24 different clients, 24 of them.
Mm-hmm.
A few of them are seasonal, and most of them have been with me years and years and years. I mean, in that.
And they're the relationships that you have developed
Yes.
over time.
Yes.
But
yeah.
then the station gets other advertisers for other
Right. And
stuff.
Holly, for example, who is on with me, has some. She does the Good Feet store and talks about the
Mhm.
insoles that they do.
And are they pre-recorded messages, or is that as
Hers are, mine are predominantly live, sitting
Right.
right there, just ad-libbing.
you know who you've got to talk about and cover?
And what they're about, and after
And
all
are
these
they
years.
specific time slots, or do you just go?
Well,
when you-
yes, everything is scheduled for us.
Right.
So it'll come up on the log that I will see Goodall Pools and Spas is next. And when that commercial
We love those
comes up-
people at Goodall Pools.
Yeah, they're the
Yeah,
best.
you can give them that.
They're the best now.
yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So do you interact with those 24 sponsors throughout the year and make sure that you're delivering for them?
Yes.
Kind of what they're expecting, and do you get any feedback from them on that?
Yeah.
Like things that they might want you to talk about?
Yes. The copy points come from the clients, unless it is something that is pretty generic. Able and Son Roofing and Siding, pretty generic. However, what changes there is they'll win Harrisburg Magazine's Reader's Choice Award, or they're named the #1 roofing company in Lebanon County by this or that poll. So those things fluctuate, but for the most part, their business is roofing, and it really doesn't change.
Are there still young people that want to do this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tougher.
So you got into it because of the $135.
Right. A week. Yeah. Not
But-
really, but yet that
Yeah.
had me enthused too.
So, like, what advice would you give to a young person who might be listening to you on the radio and thinking about getting into this business?
Find your way to get into a radio station.
Right.
Still in this day and age, the people who we have had come through started as quote unquote interns, but yet they were never interns.
Right.
They were always the people that were there. I never went home, and I was not an intern. They allowed me when I was 13 to start hanging out at the radio station, and I was not an intern.
Was it the radio station that you listened to that?
Yeah, WRAW.
Yeah.
In fact, my show is on there today. We are not only on WHP, but we're simulcast on WRAW in Reading.
Really?
So the radio station that I started on is a radio station that I will finish on.
Did that happen as soon as you got to 580, or?
No, it's probably been, I want to say maybe 7 to 10 years now. It's been some time.
Was that like a special moment for you when that kind of came full circle and you're being broadcast on the radio station that gave you your start?
Yes and no. It is a small radio station. It's like a WKBO or WFEC. Radio stations are assigned power based on who they were to serve. And both those radio stations I mentioned, and WRAW, were meant to be local radio stations. You have local, regional, and then you have clear channels that are the big 50,000 waters that cover a lot of territory. And they were all designed for different reasons. FEC and KBO and RAW were designed to cover Harrisburg and Reading proper. That's it. Not even the counties. That's why when Wink 104 went on the air, WKBO was out of business as a top 40 station, because they couldn't be heard in 2 of the 4 counties that you're rated in, okay, where Wink could. So radio stations are assigned power and frequency according to who they were to serve. And those small stations really don't serve a lot of people. So while I was excited to be on WRAW, I knew it would be limited audience compared to WHP, which is huge.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's,
Going home.
I remember I moved down to Carlisle to help manage a bank that I was working for at the time. This is probably the middle 90s. And when I got there, the CEO of the bank said, "You got to join Carlisle Country Club." And I joined Carlisle Country Club, and I was talking to my mom after that, and I said, "Yeah, I joined Carlisle Country Club. She goes, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." I said, "Why is that so amazing?" She said, "I used to work for Carlisle Country Club. I was a locker guy.
Ah,
I shined shoes.
Okay.
And cleaned the locker.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
when I was in high school."
yeah.
And she said, "You told me when you were doing that someday you were going to be a member of Carlisle Country Club." I said, "I don't even remember that."
How about that? How about that?
Yeah, but I didn't remember it. So that's why I was saying I think that, some kind of full circle where,
No, here's the thing. You asked about advice for youth.
yeah,
It's determination. I was asked to be a keynote speaker for Cedar Cliff High School's, my National Honor Society graduation.
yeah,
So here are all these kids graduating the National Honor Society with their families.
mm-hmm.
And my wife's a member of the National Honor Society. My daughter, I was at the bottom of the class. And the reason I was is because I was at the radio station
Right.
and I knew what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But my message to them was congratulations. I know how proud everyone is of you, and they should be. You worked hard to get here. You had to do a lot of things to become National Honor Society. So what? What are you doing with it?
Right.
What are you going to do with it after the fact? Because, I do believe in the American dream. I'm an inner city kid from a row home with a high school education who went on to do very, very well because I had the dream and I didn't listen to anybody tell me that I could not do it. So still in this day and age, I don't care what business you're in, and look at your job. You know it and you see it in the people you hire. Determination is everything.
So that's the way you expressed it.
Yes.
Determination.
Yes. You need to
I
go
like
out
that.
and make something of yourself.
Right.
It's not going to fall in your lap,
Right.
whether you have the best grades in the world or not.
I think I put that in the mental toughness category. I am a big believer in mental toughness.
Sure.
And, I don't think there's anything we need in this country more today than mental toughness.
Which,
Because we've kind of gotten, in my opinion, a little, away from that.
yeah. In
And-
fact, it fosters,
Right.
it really does foster what's going on now with, no common sense.
Right.
A lot of things that we talk about are just not common sense.
Well, I think that, there's a lot of people, maybe younger people who, rely on the government maybe to,
Yes.
help them out in life. And we grew up in a very similar environment, right? My parents got divorced when I was a little kid. We didn't have two nickels to rub together.
Yeah.
And everyone I started working when I was 8 years old. Started making money when I was 8. And everyone that put their money in the middle of the table, and that's the way we paid bills. And so the mental toughness that it took for me to do what I did and for you to do what you did, and for several others. We just had another guest in this week, Paul Navarro, whose family moved here from Mexico in 1974. And, they all went on to become citizens, to, all lead very productive lives. And, he's a college graduate. He has kids, and his brother's kids have kids, and they're like 50 strong now. But it was all from that 1974 move, which you move from one country to another. It's a tough thing to.
Big deal.
It takes a lot of mental toughness to
Yes.
to make that all happen. So it's easier now to say, of course it's going to work out. It's the land of opportunity. But making that make sense takes
Yeah.
determination.
Right. You need to do it.
You
and,
need to do
and
it.
there are a
You
lot
need
of
to-
people that sit around.
And
rather
you
than
got to
do
get
it.
disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had plenty of disappointment in your life. I know I have in my life.
Sure.
And there's going to be times when your best laid plans go to waste. But continuing to move forward takes that determination.
Yeah, it sure does. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
So what's next for RJ Harris?
Well,
Do you ever see yourself retiring, or is retirement going from 4 hours to 3 hours?
it has initially. Do I see myself retiring one day? I don't believe it's anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, I hope that I can recognize that I'm not doing as well as I used to. I can't keep up with things. And if that ever happens, and then go from there. But people say to me, well, why haven't you retired? I travel. I take at least one trip a year we're going to Spain and Portugal in April.
Nice.
So
Is that your first time in Portugal?
yes,
Is it?
yes, and Spain.
Yeah.
So I've been over most of Europe and a lot of other places as well. So I do travel. And next year, I'm also going on a dinosaur trip. It's one of the reasons that I had both of my knees repaired. I was supposed to be in South Dakota digging up dinosaur bones this past summer, and I knew I couldn't do it. Next year, I'll be there. So I travel, I have fun, and then I go in 5 days a week. I always tell people I act stupid, and they pay me. So how do you beat that?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you still love doing what you're doing.
I do.
And it's, as long as you have the mental faculties to do it and the physical
Right.
faculties to do it, and you love doing what you're doing, why retire?
No, that's the way I feel
Yeah.
about it too. Yeah.
But you do have to do a little traveling. You got to take care of that bride of 53 years.
Right. Yeah, I want to get more travel in the United States. We've been to the big places, the canyons, and the California coast, and the Colorado, or the
You feel like you've
Canadian
been everywhere
Rockies.
in the United States that you want to go to?
No, I'll tell you where I want to go now are the less exotic places like Savannah, Georgia, and up through New England and places like that. Maybe a Mississippi River cruise. I don't know. We'll see.
How many states have you been in?
Oh gosh,
And spend time.
I have not. I know I'm at either high 30s or early 40s. There aren't that many that I need to do. There's some that have eluded me, like New Mexico and some places like that, Oklahoma.
How about
but very
South
few.
Dakota? Have you been there?
No. Oh, yes, South Dakota. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I've been.
So the finding a reason to go to some of those states is challenging. So I woke up a couple years ago and I said, I've only been to 24 states. And I want to get to all 50 by the time I turn 70.
Sure.
So I started saying 3 states a year.
That's great.
And last year I had an opportunity to go to, believe it or not, never been to Texas, but I got to Texas, got to Louisiana, and I got to Tennessee.
That's excellent. 3
And
great states.
This year we got to Kentucky. And, I've got
one?
a couple more I got to try to get to before the end of the year. But
Idaho?
no, I've never
I have
been
to do,
Idaho.
I see the ones that are really off the beaten path.
So-
When I lived in California, I should have gone to Oregon, never did that one.
I've been to California, but I haven't been to Oregon or Washington. and so some of the reason you go to a place is like a football game, college football game, a baseball game. But then you say, well, what's going to get you to South Dakota? So I found out what's going to get me to South Dakota.
What is it?
And Dave Latour said he wants to go with me.
Okay.
Theodore Roosevelt Library
Ah.
was just opened in South Dakota.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why South Dakota,
Well,
but
yeah.
but it's in South Dakota, and I'm like, that's what I'm.
No, that really would be interesting because he's such a character and an interesting guy. I mean, a character A to Z from youth on.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I mean, there's been very few presidents that have had his life.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that guy was
Absolutely.
an amazing presence, and I love visiting presidential libraries, or I'd like to visit presidential
You
libraries.
saw that Miami gave the state of Florida gave Trump land in Miami, prime land, and that's where the Trump Library will be.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be worth a lot of money.
That's gonna be that'll be a place that is visited heavily and protested heavily.
Well, yeah, you're right about that.
I don't think there's been a more polarizing figure, maybe, in American politics. I mean, think about that. And I'm not saying that as a criticism or a compliment.
No,
It's just an observation.
it's hard to say because we only see what we see.
Right.
And way back, there were some very, very polarizing people, including Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say that he's the most, but certainly it's easy to say he's the most at the same time.
Yeah. So let's say the most polarizing over the last 60 years. So
Yeah, I would agree
I've
with
been
that.
alive.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
62 years.
The other one was Reagan.
He was. Not people don't remember that.
Yeah, not
But-
Nixon. Reagan.
No.
Nixon was Nixon on both sides, but Reagan was very polarizing.
My grandmother loved Nixon.
Is that right?
Loved him.
Yeah.
And she was heartbroken
Yeah.
Yeah, she was still alive when that all happened. So
A lot of people were.
yeah.
Yeah.
She actually campaigned for him.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, who never had two nickels rubbed together, would canvass the streets of Harrisburg and surrounding areas and try to get people to vote for Richard Nixon.
Yeah. Wow.
And George Gekas. Remember George Gekas?
Oh, I knew George very well.
Yeah.
George was one of my favorite people.
She.
Do you know that he won his first election for Congress
Mhm.
by the exact number of doors that he knocked on?
Really?
That's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many doors do you?
I forget what it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 13,000 some.
I would almost bet that my grandmother helped him.
Probably
Helped
so.
him with some of
Yeah,
that,
George
'cause
was a good man.
She loved that guy.
Yeah.
And I remember when I became an adult and I started working, and my grandmother had passed away in the late 70s, and I saw him out in public, and I went up and I introduced myself, and I said, "Do you remember Elsie Height?" And he goes, "Of course I do. Why?" And I said, "It was my grandmother." And I felt like the most important person in the world.
Yeah. No, George was an amazing man. And I want to tell you a quick, do we have time for a radio story?
Of course.
Okay. George, we had a guy in the afternoon, you may remember the name, Bob Durgan.
Mhm.
He was very fiery. He
Yeah.
was number one. People loved him, and he stood up for people. That's what
Right.
it was all about. So one day he was on the air, and I don't even know what he was talking about, but George was coming back from D.C., and he was coming up 83, and that was back when at the Lewis Berry, right? Isn't it Lewis Berry, the
Mhm.
first exit? The only thing there was a Tom's Mart.
Mhm.
That's it. None of that other stuff was there. Well, George got so mad at Durgan, and they had a great relationship. It was fiery, yet civil and all that. George got off. He was so mad. He went to the phone booth. So this will show you the era, and called Durgan on the air. And the two of them are fighting, and Durgan hears trucks. He says, "Where are you?" And Gekas tells him. Well, 10 minutes later, because they're still on the phone, and it's cold. It's winter, and Gekas is cold.
He's standing in a phone booth.
Phone booth.
Yeah.
Guy comes up, knocks on the phone booth, gives him a cup of coffee.
So just someone that was
Someone
listening
that
to
heard
the-
him talking to Durgan,
That's
knew where he
awesome.
was, went into Tom's on this cold day and got George a cup of coffee, handed it into the phone booth to him.
And he was an amazing local politician, and then became statewide. Do you remember who he lost to?
Was it Tim Holden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Tim pretty well.
Yeah.
The best man
Tim was a really solid
Yeah,
person.
the best man in my wedding, Tom Gajewski, was Tim Holden's first chief of staff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I knew Tim pretty well, and I would agree with you. I think that Tim was a solid individual, pretty much all the way around.
And didn't they combine?
Yeah,
They
what
redistricted
happened? Right,
and
they did a redistricting
Holden was
job.
in Congress, so was
Yes,
George.
and Holden had really some Democratic strongholds for him.
Sure.
I think he still retained part of Berks County and definitely Schuylkill
Schuylkill,
County.
yeah.
Was in there, and
Mhm.
maybe even a little bit of Lebanon, I forget.
Mhm.
But it was gerrymandered so that it was pretty solidly
Right.
in his camp. But yeah,
Which was a shame, because then we lost a good politician in George
lost
Gekas,
Gekas.
but
And Tim, he doesn't get credit for Cabela's, and I don't know if you know the Cabela's story, but they were supposed to build Cabela's around Bethel, okay? And someone said they thought that people were against it. They didn't want it there, blah, blah, blah. So one day someone said they thought they saw a bog turtle. Not they saw one. Not they saw
They
one.
thought they saw
thought they
one,
saw.
yeah.
Well, the project was put on hold, and it looked like Cabela's was not going to build in the state of Pennsylvania. It was Holden who got them to build where they did,
Really?
off of 61 there. Yeah.
Well, that almost brings this to full circle, because my father-in-law, Jerry Updike, Jerry and Melissa, who are, often listeners of yours,
Thank you.
I think that was the greatest thing that ever happened to him. Cabela's.
Yeah,
Cabela's
yeah.
being built because, he's an outdoorsman, and
We did the morning show there the day it opened.
really.
Yeah. And we were there the day before too, when Rendell, when Ed Rendell dedicated it, and I was in the front row, and Ed Rendell, he and I didn't get along that well, so he's all kinds of
How
happy.
did you not get along with Ed Rendell?
He got all kinds of
He's the most
happy, and then he
fun-loving
saw
guy
me and he frowned. He was too happy. I'll tell you about Eddie Rendell. If you said to me, pick 2 guys that you'd like to go have a beer with,
He'd be one of them.
he and Clinton.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He and Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was
politically, we'd have
Absolutely.
some problems, but if we just went to have a beer, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So Cabela's got a competitor with Bass Pro,
Yes.
right? And Bass Pro, when they have the grand opening, they have a bunch of celebrities that came and helped them do the grand opening, and one of them was Merrill Hodge. And
Mm.
Merrill's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And a second one was Bubby Brister.
Okay.
So you got Merrill Hodge, played for the Steelers, Bubby Brister, who was quarterback for the Steelers. And the third guy that was with them, so Merrill called me and said, hey, I'm in town to do this, this grand opening for Bass Pro. Let's get together and have dinner. So I go, and I know who Bubby is, but I never met him before. And the third guy was the person that invented the new camouflage, the new hunting camouflage,
Okay.
which I don't remember what the old hunting camouflage was, but he developed the new hunting camouflage. So, and I wish I remembered his name, but I don't. So a few days later, I'm with my father-in-law. Now, my father-in-law is a huge outdoorsman, and he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I said, oh, man, I had dinner the other night with Merrill Hodge and Bobby Brister and some other guy. And he goes, well, who was the other guy? I said, I don't know. I can't remember his name, but I know that he developed the new, hunting camouflage. And he goes, do you mean this guy? And I was like, yeah, that was his name. And he goes, I can't believe that you had dinner with 2 Pittsburgh Steelers and that guy. I would have loved to have been there.
Yeah. That would have been his place, man. That's great.
RJ, you're the best, man.
Well,
thanks
thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thank
and
you.
I'd love to have you back at some point.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come
You
back.
know what
This
would be
is a lot of
what
fun.
would be great if we get you and Latour
Oh,
at
anytime.
the same time.
Yeah.
We could have
Yeah.
one heck of an hour.
No, it really
With-
would be a
with
great
you,
hour.
Latour.
So anytime you want to do it, you let me know.
I
I'd be
appreciate
honored. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming
Thank
in,
you.
and we'll talk soon. And we have who coming up next?
Dr. J. Rahman.
Dr. J. Rahman. You know that guy?
I know that name. How?
He's the head of the urology group at Penn State down in Hershey.
Okay.
And we partner up with him to do No Shave November.
Okay. Yeah.
And together, because this isn't all money that we've raised, it's they raise and we raise.
Yeah.
This is our 10th year doing it. And I think we're going to be in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million.
Wow. That's tremendous. Congratulations.
And what he does he's an amazing guy. What he does with most of the money is he does free prostate cancer screenings
tremendous.
all throughout the state
Tremendous.
in areas where they need them most,
Yeah.
disadvantaged communities.
That's great.
And look, prostate cancer is, if you get to it early, your success rate is very, very high.
Mm.
If you don't, then not so high.
Yeah.
So he's doing critical stuff in the communities that need it most. And it's
Well,
it's an amazing.
I look forward to seeing you with a beard. I can't imagine you with that big beard you talked about.
It's all white these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, I get that. I do.
Thanks, RJ.
My pleasure.
Everyone have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Mid-Penn Bank Podcast. You can find more episodes at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and more. Do you have a question about the podcast? Email us at podcast@midpennbank.com. References in this podcast to Mid-Penn are to Mid-Penn Bancorp, Inc. and its subsidiaries and affiliates. This podcast expresses the views of its participants and may not represent the views of Mid-Penn or its officers and employees. In addition, these views are subject to change without notice, and Mid-Penn has no duty or obligation to update the information contained in this podcast. This podcast is being made available for informational purposes only and should not be used for any other purposes. You are encouraged to consult with competent legal, tax, accounting, or investment professionals before engaging in any financial transaction. Mid-Penn does not make any warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the information in this podcast, does not endorse any third-party companies, products, or services, and assumes no liability for your use of this information. Forward-looking statements should not be considered guarantees or predictions of future events. This podcast is the sole property of Mid-Penn and may not be copied, reproduced, republished, or posted in whole or in part in any form without prior written consent of Mid-Penn.